So if you're struggling with how to create a strong, complex thesis statement, then this video is really going to help you because I'm going to break it down. And I want you to notice that the handout here is even more updated and can be found on the essay support page. So I would download this sheet if you find that you're really struggling with writing that complex thesis statement. So what is it we want to do? Well, this first step in writing any essay is the step 1 here, identifying the task. So if you take a look at the handout I gave you, everyone is answering this question. We're trying to address to what extent does power, the lack of power, affect individuals? So, okay, that's what we're all being asked to do. What's my first step? Well, now that I've identified the task, now step 2, I'm going to turn this question into a statement. So now I've taken that particular statement, as you can see here, this question, and I've turned it into a statement. I just got rid of to what extent does. In other words, I turned this into a complete sentence. And here's what I wrote. Power, or the lack of power, affects individuals and society. Okay, now I've turned it into the statement. Now what do I do? Well, moving down, and I'm going to move these both along with the way here, I'm going to think about what we were covering in class. And step 3 here says, think of 2 to 3 clear, strong ways to support the answer to the question. These will become the subtopics. Well, in class, we were trying to think of ways in which power impacts Melba. And I was basically either doing one of the following. I was either coming up with 2 people from whom Melba learns, and if you're thinking I didn't have 2 people, then you had 2 to 3 behaviors that impact and shaped Melba during her year of integration. So it says list my 2 to 3 reasons here. These 2 to 3 reasons are the behaviors that I was coming up with in class, words like persistence or resilience or determination, or I was listing out people such as Grandma India, Danny, or even Link. So that's what I'm going to do down at this next part. So let's move this up, and let's move this statement up. And once again, here I'm going to list out my 2 to 3 reasons at this point. The next step as I take a look at this is looking at number 4, and it's telling me to combine number 2, which was the sentence we came up with about power, and then my reasons from number 3 into one sentence right here. So I'm going to take both of those and I'm going to combine them here into a sentence. So now I've combined them both into one sentence, and you can see I have the beginning part up over here. Power, the lack of power, affects individuals, and notice that's misspelled, and we'll fix that, through their behaviors of persistence, resilience, and denial of their actions. And you can see I fixed the spelling mistake here. So I've got power, or the lack of power, affects individuals. So that's that first part from number 2. And then I added in my 3 reasons from up over here, the behaviors, through their behaviors of, and here's my first one, persistence, resilience, and denial of their actions. My last step in this whole process, now if I take a look, is now step 5. I have to take this whole sentence, which is not complex, and turn it into a complex thesis statement. And it reminds me to remember to use a subordinating conjunction. Now, if I'm really stuck, I can try to use one of the following methods while writing the thesis statement, and I can use the since statement. Now, this example begins with the word since, but I could always add the subordinate conjunction here. So I could say power, or the lack of power, affects individuals through their behaviors of persistence, resilience, and denial of their actions since they do not want to accept integration, period. That would make it a subordinate clause, which would make the whole sentence complex. Let's try just putting that whole beginning at the start of my sentence. Since the school community causes difficulty through racist acts for Melba, comma, I'm going to take this part and I can put it in the front of this sentence here. Power, the lack of power, affects individuals through their behaviors of persistence, resilience, and denial of their actions. I could also, and I'm going to keep that sentence floating with me here, I could try an all those statement. So let's just try taking a look at this one. I'm going to move it down here and ask ourselves, how could I add although to it? So, although people believe change is a powerful idea, comma, power, the lack of power, affects individuals through their behaviors of persistence, resilience, and denial of their actions. So what I'm essentially doing here is I'm coming up with a subordinate clause that uses these statements. Let's just move to the second. And here I have an although statement. And let's just think about adding it to my statement before. Although Melba believes integration will be an easy task, power, the lack of power affects individuals. And I'm just going to put a mental ellipse here and finish the thought. Look at how I gave you an example here. She is impacted by the behaviors of racism through resistance, through verbal abuse, and through resilience. So what you want to do is take what we just created from number 4 and make it into a complex sentence. And this is ultimately what you're going to put into your Google Doc for me. You're going to take that sentence that you draft right up here, try to make it complex, and put it into your Google Doc, and then we can assess whether it's complex or not. So hopefully this method has helped you and you have a better idea of how to create a complex thesis statement.